What's up, citizens? Thank y'all for joining us on this epic live stream on this Reformation Day or slash Halloween. I'm joined today by the legend, Jesse. What's up, man?
What's up, John?
Glad we could do this today, man, at the last minute.
Yeah, last minute, but I'm for it.
And in and out, Emily, the epic blue-haired woman that spoke about the women of the Reformation, will be hopping in and out. But did you grow up? So when you were growing up, man, did your family make more of a big deal about Reformation Day, or were y'all more of like a Halloween, or was it nothing?
So basically, growing up, before I started going to church with my family, this was back when I was about 13, 14-ish, we would definitely go trick-or-treating and celebrating Halloween and all that. But once we started going to church, Halloween was absolutely off limits. Harry Potter, off limits. But that's okay on the Harry Potter part. I only made it 1/4 of the way through the Goblet of Fire. Anyways, but yeah, basically entered into a somewhat charismatic denomination, the Assemblies of God, AG. I say somewhat, but I'm trying to be merciful here. I still love them though. They're pretty awesome because that is where I did get sick, and the gospel is there. But my reviews have changed, just steadily growing up. I didn't get much into Reformed theology until one of my best friends I met at UTSA, Garner. He sat me down one evening, and he had recently been hearing about something called Calvinism. That's usually the gateway drug into Reformed theology. And he opened me straight up to Romans. Basically, he read it to me for like 3 hours. I'm just sitting there thinking, and then I'm just like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of freaking sense. Romans 8, Romans 9, everything else, all makes cosmic sense at that point. I wouldn't say that I'm totally reformed, mainly because I want to be able to keep on learning the entirety of Reformed theology. But if people ask, what denomination I am, I just tell them, Reformed Baptist. Of course, the Presbyterians would have something to say about that.
Yeah, the Presbyterians always got something to say.
But that's why we love them, because they're willing to speak up. But yeah, once I got into Reformed theology, it kind of clashed with the views I had with the common charismatic movement, like pre-trib dispensationalism and all that. Eventually, as I read Romans even more thoroughly, I couldn't call myself dispensationalist anymore.
What was it that changed? What was it about Romans that caused you to flip?
Probably not, because Paul pretty much mentioned how he wishes that for the sake of his Jews, the brethren, that they could be saved and he could become unsaved in some sort of cosmic trade.
Yeah.
But then Paul lays out, it was never by blood that they were bound into the covenant, but rather it was always by faith alone, through God's grace alone, which he explains in the earlier chapters of Romans. And the more I pondered on that, the more I was like, well, I can't say that the Jews are God's chosen people in this day and age, because God's people recognize who the Christ is. And that really ruffles some feathers there. But yeah, I would never say that a pre-trib dispensationalist is not saved. I believe they're absolutely saved. But what I do believe is
them as they're like that crazy uncle you kind of wish would show Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but you have to love them anyways.
But you still have to let them in.
Yeah, you have to love them anyways because very few people are willing to, and that's your calling. But yeah, still, I love my brethren in the AG. I still love my pre-trib dispensational brethren as well. I have no problems with calling them my brothers. I have no problems going to their cookouts, to their picnics, because their food is usually great. But do we have our theological differences? Of course. Was I immature back in the day when it came to Calvinism? Of course, as any Calvinist would be. They would naturally go through the cage stage. In fact, I accidentally brought someone over to the Doctrines of Grace by caging out for an hour in my car with them. And then they were just like, yeah, okay. What would I learn if I were perfect? And absolutely nothing.
No need for your Savior to be perfect.
Yeah. And saying that you're perfect, well, try and be graceful about this answer. But saying that you're perfect is spitting in God's face. Because some past about a group that I was once involved with at UTSA that basically believed in sinless perfection and what I would call true Arminianism. Because most people, 98% of people who say they're Arminian, they're not really Arminian. They're not all 5 counterpoints to Calvinistic doctrines of grace. They're usually 3 points into Calvinistic grace, maybe 2, and just agreeing with 2. But the group I was briefly a part of totally believed in total Arminianism. Also believed in open theism. If I remember correctly, the theology that they believed in is called Lordship Theology. And that was around when I was 25.
What is that?
Basically, Lordship Theology is believing in total work. So it's not just semi-Pelagian, it is fully Pelagian.
Okay. Hey, I got this to you, man. Can you break down Pelagianism?
It's like, dang it, I didn't come prepared for this.
Yeah, no, I know what it is. I can recognize it when I see it. But I'm terrible with explaining things.
Do you know what it is, John?
So I can't give a proper. I'm kind of with him. I can't give a proper definition. But is the idea that man is. It involves the idea that man is not born with inheritance. That man chooses to be good or to be bad.
Yeah, and then that everyone is born with a clean slate. In that term, if I remember correctly, is tabula rasa.
Yeah, we just read about
like clean slate.
Pure.
Yeah, and basically, they don't believe in sin being inherited. Now, when I say inherited sin, I don't mean like, oh, you inherit your father's sins. Like, no, you inherit the sinful nature, which is passed down to us through Adam. And basically, they didn't believe in that. They believed that, actually, if I remember correctly, that children don't sin because their view of sin is saying sin is a fully conscientious choice. So that means if they accidentally sin and they didn't truly mean it to sin, it doesn't count as sin.
Yes, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, like sin is sin no matter what you do. It's why people are charged with manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter, because even though they didn't intend to kill someone, there's still a charge against them for their negligence. And we get that basically from knowing and recognizing sin. Though nowadays, but a lot of cities across the country will try and play the charges off or drop them entirely, unfortunately. But that's the culture we live in when the gospel is diminished and watered down to be more pleasing to goats rather than nourishing to the sheep.
I have a Halloween question.
Mm-hmm.
So, if a kid's parents are driving them from house to house and dropping them off the driveway, has that child earned the candy?
Children don't earn candy in the first place. It's all a result of grit.
Why are you doing this?
I'm just being correct about the whole situation.
You don't earn the candy no matter what.
Yeah, like you don't earn the candy. The candy is given freely to you out of pure grace. The fact that they even got to there in the first place was not of their own work.
It was their grace parents, right?
Yeah, it's all grace, and people don't understand that sometimes. In many ways. But yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Kids need to go out and walk nowadays. Go out and touch grass, how the Zoomers say it.
So, like, in all jokes aside, like, this is the silliest holiday that exists, right? There is no holiday sillier than Halloween, right?
I can think of a few.
Yeah, they're sillier.
Okay, so holidays that involve a tradition. Right, so holidays with tradition, right?
Mm.
There's Easter, that's a great holiday.
Yeah.
Christmas, phenomenal holiday.
Mm.
Thanksgiving, it's a pretty cool holiday, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's all food. But it's pretty cool, right? 4th of July, great holiday, right? It's another food holiday.
Mm-hmm.
The other, Halloween is the only other holiday that kind of has like a tradition, right?
Yeah.
You dress up, hopefully you dress up and you're having fun. And then, like, you go around, like, collect candy from neighbors.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the only, like, holiday, though, that traditionally was designed for you to meet your neighbors. Because you used to, you would walk down the streets, and your neighbors would be out walking down the streets.
Yeah.
And you would kind of more or less be forced to meet your neighbors, talk with them. If you're a parent, you complained about having to go walk down the street after you worked, and your kids have fun. You hung out with other kids going up and down the streets and that kind of thing. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
Like, when you're in the car, just dropping them off at house to house to house.
Yeah.
You've lost the one thing that I know.
Yeah. Like, first of all, getting cardio in for you and your kids. Second of all, that point you were mentioning about being able to meet your neighbors and getting to know more of them, especially in their personality and choice of costume and choice of decoration. Like, you start to see a lot more of them come out in the open than most times when you're just having talk yard to yard to each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, like us, we're podcasters for Halloween.
Yeah, but we're
set up in the garage, passing out candy.
Our open garage with the lights on, a bucket of high fructose corn syrup.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've had like 4 groups of kids.
Yeah, I've already taken a picture for the gram.
For the gram?
Yeah, with the neighbor lady.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because she liked Emily's Christmas sweater.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't have a Halloween costume, but I have a Christmas sweater.
Doctor Who is a legitimate cryptid that must be hunted down, according to American traditions when it comes to cryptids.
But he's fighting for humanity.
Still don't trust him.
But it's the same body every time.
Is it?
Yeah. Technically.
I don't think she means it the same way that you mean.
No. It completely morphs, but it's the same.
Oh. Okay.
No memory of the doctor
He's
before.
not stealing skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, everything changes.
Okay, that makes sense now.
And, like, all new memories. All new function.
But when we create an American version of it,
it's going to be creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And literally we're watching.
That makes more sense now. He's still a cryptid, but he's a European one. And all the European ones are known for being somewhat friendly. Like gnomes, elves, gnomes, elves, with yeah, I would consider them European cryptids. You want to have a cup of tea with them, whereas American cryptids, you want to hunt them down. Yeah, I've just barely gotten into the podcast, and the last thing I remember is Mothman and AI. But yes, they're all connected.
So he's talking about the Haunted Cosmos episode with the aliens.
Have you watched the Bigfoot one?
I haven't. I'm starting from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to take it slow at a time because I hate listening to it and then having trouble sleeping at night.
Just wait, it gets so good. It's so good.
So-
I want to listen to all of them.
I think I've been honest with y'all. I'm not the biggest fan of the guy who does that. We don't really talk about that.
Yep.
But I do appreciate what they're doing with the podcast. That's what I mean. Is I'm not a big fan of them.
Yep.
But I like that they're willing to put out some content about things that we're talking about with the Haunted Cosmos.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things, a lot of Christians, even shockingly in more charismatic circles, would prefer not to talk about or analyze or that kind of thing. But then willing to talk about like myths and like aliens and like all of these different kind of things, that those stories have been around for generations upon generations, cross culture and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like for those stories, those myths, folklores to be around for generation after generation.
There's something to
cross culture, even like cross culture, even across the country.
Yeah.
Across the pond. There's something to that.
Yeah. Basically, there's hints of truth that are in a lot of stories. And you only need that little hint of truth to want to know more. And that's basically how I am when it comes to just a lot of lore concerning fictional settings, stories.
So, for Reformation, I went and did a bunch of posts about historical Reformation stuff.
Yeah.
Who are y'all's favorite reformers?
Probably Martin Luther himself.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much I've heard about him that makes me go, dang, this guy is the one who definitely changes the timeline.
Yeah. Put you on the spot. What's one of the favorite stories you've got on him? Besides nailing the pieces.
So, I remember, I apologize if I don't recall it accurately, but a bunch of nuns had broken off from the Roman Catholic Church and decided to join with the Reformation. And so, basically, he had to have them all wed to a bunch of other guys. And there was one left, Catherine, who would eventually become his wife. And that was only because she was like the last one left, and there was no one else. So he was like, "Well, I may as well get married."
Yeah.
And from there, that woman was basically perfect for him, because Martin Luther was also known for going through bouts of depression, and she was the right woman to handle that, because during one of his bouts of depression, his wife Catherine had dressed up in all black mourning funeral attire one day out of the blue, and he just thought, why are you dressed that way? You know, who are you mourning? Well, I'm in mourning because God is dead. And then he would reply, he isn't. And then she would finally reply, well, you're acting like he is.
So that's what you
Yeah.
It's funny, man.
That's one of the greatest. That one when she takes his door off are some of my favorites.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What a beast.
That was super funny. Yeah. John?
So I feel like it's just kind of like everybody has to say Martin Luther, because like that's how it all starts. So like Martin Luther has to. Obviously, I would put Calvin there as well, because he puts the structure in what Martin Luther started.
Yeah.
But I think that his name is John Haas, who basically was trying to accomplish the work that Martin Luther starts.
100 years prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
And but like it just wasn't the time yet.
Yeah.
And so like they basically burned him alive. And then he while he's
burning on the fire,
basically, he basically gives what a lot of people call the prophecy of that. Basically, I think it's something along the lines of like the goose is going to show up and he's going to handle this.
He basically said something along the lines of, "You may cook this goose today, but in 100 years' time, there will be a golden goose that you will not be able to burn."
Yeah.
And basically, almost 100 years later, Martin Luther shows up and does his thing.
Right. And so, like, I would probably say those were part of my top. And like, because with him, you see like with him, you see the coming of Martin Luther, and then Martin Luther shows up, and then Calvin organizes, puts quite structure towards Martin Luther started. That's probably what I believe.
Yeah, and that eventually led down the line to many other reformers. And would you say that we're still reforming today, 500 years later?
We should,
We should be.
We should be, We should always be.
Yeah. So
with the church, there's always going to be massive work to be done. There's always going to need to be reformation. That doesn't mean that everything that we call a reformation is reformation.
Yeah.
Like the Apostolic Reformation is not reformation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should always be reforming. No doubt. Do you have three?
Do I have three?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just now getting into a lot of it, and of the ones that I did any kind of research on, the story of Zwingli and his wife, not necessarily his theology, but how they came about meeting each other through service, and then how they end up basically poking at the current status quo of being the first in clergy to be married. But the thing that just did it for me with their story is Luther despised Zwingli to the point of saying, "I hope that one day he will be saved because those in his camp are unsaved." Basically saying he's going to hell. But at the same time, Zwingli's like, Luther is on this pedestal, this great man of God, and Luther's like, "You're garbage." But what was funny about it, though, is, he's like the younger brother, literally on his coattails the whole time. But at the same time, he's putting everything out before Martin Luther did. He just didn't have the following whatsoever. But then if you look, he's the one clearing the path, laying some groundwork for those like Calvin to come up and actually have a platform to stand on and to be able to push forward and change culture like they did. But to be literally right behind Luther the whole time and being like the first to get married that's clergy, the first one, I think he wrote the 72, 70-something thesis. He wrote his own thesis like right before Luther did. And like everything right before, but he just didn't have a platform. And so it's just kind of one of those stories of like the competing brothers in my mind, and it just makes me laugh. And then his wife is just like obtainable. Catherine is an interesting one, but it's like the story written about her is like she had it all under control. His wife is like, "I'm trying my best to push through this. I'm on with God, the gospel, and I'm on with the mission I've been placed here to do." But there's many writings of her going, "I don't know how we're going to get the money. I don't know how we're going to buy shoes. I don't know how," and it's like, I can relate to that, where I'm sitting here going like, I need to have it all together, all put together, and present it perfectly. But really, the reformers didn't either. They didn't have it together.
Yeah, like they weren't perfect. Their theology was not perfect, but nonetheless, it was still more than enough to carry them through, to persevere until they finally are able to rest in Christ. And, I'm glad that one of the more recent reformers that passed, R.C. Sproul, is now able to rest. Like, he was great. He's Presby, but he was great. Nothing against Presbys. Like, he's a good Presby. Yeah, he was a great one. And I'm sure the Presbys will be a little ticked off about this, claiming him as a reformer.
Well, like, one of the things that R.C. Sproul was really good at was building bridges.
Yeah.
R.C. Sproul was really, really good.
Yeah.
And like, so we're joking around about a lot of Presbyterians, where I think we would all agree that we have a lot more in common than we don't.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot in common, like 90% probably.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that R.C. Sproul was good at was communicating truth in a graceful way.
Yeah.
And being able to communicate that with people that he had like those disagreements with. With Baptists, Lutherans, like everybody. Like he was really good about that. And he was really good about communicating complicated things in the average man's language. Which he is kind of one of the fathers for that work in our era, in like the 1900s and the 2000s. He was really good about, because in the 1900s, even probably like before that to some extent, theology was kind of viewed as a white collar thing. And he was really good about being people who's like, we need to take this thing that's become white collar and put it together for the blue collar.
Yeah.
And Sproul was really good about getting that work going.
Yeah. Because people don't realize how much theology will actually influence the way they live, the things they do, and their work ethic especially. Because you ultimately start to learn more about who God is. And when you learn more about who God is, you ultimately start to love Him more. And when you start to love Him more, that ultimately shows in the way that you treat people, in the way that you want to not sin, in the way that you grieve for your sin, in the way that affects your sanctification, in the way that ultimately affects also your work ethic. Like, you want to work harder because you start to realize your work, your profession, whether it be your actual profession that you're paid for or something on the side you do for fun, you want to do it good. You want to do it dexterous. You want to do it in such an articulate way that looks beautiful, all to the glory of God.
Yeah. So who are some reformers you guys would say that are alive today?
Bodhi Baucham.
Yeah.
Definitely making some fault lines.
Have you read that book? I don't mean to put you on blast. I'm just asking you to read it.
I have the book in hardcover, but I cheated and listened to the whole thing on Audible.
Oh yeah.
What's wrong with that?
So, yes, I figuratively did read it. I was just lazy about it. But I like to get hardcovers just because
I'm lazy about all my books then.
I love to get hardcovers of the books I listen to just because it looks nice on my shelf. It makes me look smart. And it's something to save for later generations.
I tend to get the ones that I enjoy the most in hard copy for I wouldn't say a fear of paranoia, but revisions. We are in a world of revisions and censorship. And so there's a couple of books that tend to walk the line of what would be considered politically okay. And so I'm like, yeah, I want this in hard copy because I want to always be able to get my hands on it. And so those tend to be the ones that I'll listen to on Audible or something along those lines. And I'll make sure, because I've had books disappear from my audio library because they don't follow some guideline. And so I'll go and buy them hard copy for that exact reason.
Yeah.
And I guess John would call it a sin. I highlight and write my books. So we tend to buy more than one copy. So just Bodhi?
Bodhi is a great one. He's the one who first comes to mind for today.
I put Alistair Begg.
Yeah, Alistair Begg. Dude, what a freaking beast.
For an accent alone.
Yeah. Oh, man. That just adds plus 10 charisma.
I still count R.C. Sproul as one.
Yeah.
Because he's only been gone for a few years. So I usually put him there. Alistair Begg's there. I generally enjoy Bodhi Baucham. Even one of the reasons I enjoy Bodhi Baucham is because even if I disagree with him, it takes work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work. Like I would say those three. I have a lot of the living people that I have appreciated and respected for so long, that has drifted away a lot. And I catch myself going further. I just catch myself continuously going further back into history.
Because, they're not still evolving their thoughts.
That, and they just start doing some weird stuff. They just start doing weird stuff.
Would John MacArthur be one of them?
No.
Is he the one that said no coffee in the sanctuary?
No, that was John Piper.
That was Piper.
I do still appreciate John Piper, actually. I still appreciate John Piper. I don't understand why he's... The more I've become aware of, Christian... I guess what we call Christian culture and the circles and hubs and stuff, I've kind of been puzzled as to why Piper is taking so much flack in his ministry. In regards to MacArthur, I think it's incredible that we have records of him preaching throughout every verse of the entire Bible.
Yeah.
I think that's a remarkable thing. But there's just, his dedication to dispensationalism bothers me a lot. His inconsistency on how he treats the government, I find bizarre. And for me, in my opinion, he straddles legalism too much for me. And there have been some stories that have come out from his church administration over the past couple of years about how he's mishandled some very serious things. Yeah. I'm still hopefully waiting for the facts and everything to settle on that. But that is something that had my attention. I'm not the biggest fan of John MacArthur.
I think something with a lot of these guys that I'm hoping to see, because most of them, they're not retirement age, because I don't think you ever fully retire. But I would like to see how they pass the torch. Because, whether or not you agree fully with Tim Keller's stance, the way he stepped down from his role and passed it before he was senile, before he was too old to preach, he was able to pass on the ministry. Yep. He raised someone up, he discipled someone, and passed it on, and I don't see that happen.
I mean, Tim Keller, I wasn't a fan of how he, kind of dug his heels off a lot of the social justice stuff. But, even to this day, a lot of how I view ministry and evangelism and stuff, he was influenced by him. And so, I was really disappointed and upset with how after he passed, there was a lot of Christians and pastors, especially pastors. I think we should all hold pastors what they say the higher standard than we should rate the average person. Yeah. But the number of people that came out after he had passed and said that there was no hope for him was alarming. Oh, I enjoy Joe. Joe Thorne is pretty solid. He's in Illinois.
Never heard of him.
He did a series with him and one of his others. Did a series on YouTube for a while. It was pastors in cars smoking cigars.
I forgot about that.
I think I'd like to say we can all agree that our elders at our church are some of our favorite Reformed pastors.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to get too caught in the Southern culture. We can't say that.
Admit the
Yeah.
That didn't blow away.
Yeah. I'm just glad to be able to know my elders and deacons so well.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest gifts behind being in a small church.
Yeah.
While it may be nice to get more people in the church, at the same time, too, it's just small churches create a very tight-knit community.
Yeah.
And as you slowly integrate more people, an already tight-knit community is going to naturally be even tighter.
Yeah.
Because, in that space, more bodies, more people. Make it a little tighter in there.
Yeah. I think there's a space where we should always want to see growth, because that means that we are seeing the gospel moving, we're seeing the work of the kingdom in effect. But I think we all. I hate having to say this. Our hope is always we want to see God's will. But getting that out of the way, I think we should always want to see growth in the church.
Yeah.
But like we should not always be yearning to see rapid growth, right?
Yeah.
Slow and steady.
Yeah.
Because then you have to question, why are all these people all of a sudden coming over here out of nowhere?
Yeah. But like we also don't want to idolize that whole like mega church thing.
Yeah, don't want to turn pastors into superstars. That's not what they're meant to be.
Yeah. No. What's weird is Christians don't seem to understand that, but Joe Rogan seems to understand.
Man, that's humbling.
Carl, the whole thing with Carl Lentz happened. I think almost everybody who will possibly watch this knows who Carl Lentz is.
Yeah.
But like when that happened, the whole thing went down. Like everybody heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember listening to like an episode of Rogan's podcast, and he says like, pastor and celebrity doesn't make sense. It doesn't mix.
No.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't. Like there's a reason that like your Spurgeons are the exception, Billy Grahams are the exception. There's a reason historically, like those people were very, very rare. But like in the culture we live in today, everybody's trying to create that for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and they'd be semi-upset at being idolized.
Yeah. Yeah, like if Calvin knew there's a theology about him, he would be furious.
Yeah. But it was basically a derogatory term when they called people a Calvinist. Yeah. And so people just, okay.
Right.
Just call me that.
I do find it interesting, something I'd read just recently was the amount of people who claim to be Christian exceeds those who would have, what is the exact way I'm using this? Would exceed the amount of people that came to faith during the Great Awakening.
Hmm.
So currently we have more Christians, salvations, than what would have been at the Great Awakening. If that were the case, then should we be seeing reform and change?
See, and it's not even like a fraction more. It's
significant.
It's like it multiplies excessively more than the number of people that were converted by during the Great Awakening. Which means that reporting is not accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you were to go with the benefit of the doubt that amount of people were saved through the Great Awakening, they did not do a great job of discipling their children.
Yeah.
And that's giving them the benefit of a doubt. And that's going with the far extreme of saying, yes, every one of them got saved. But you can't know that for sure, ultimately.
Right.
But I think the Great Awakening may be a big contributor into creating Big Ava.
Yeah.
Creating what?
Big Ava.
What is that?
Evangelicals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because now you're getting people who are using, what's his name, techniques.
You think of Rick Warren?
No.
Yeah.
The Finney.
Charles
Charles
you're going
Finney.
that far.
Yes.
Okay.
Charles Finney. Gosh. Trash. Golly.
We need to have Susan on to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, just seeing a picture of him alone, you can already tell this guy, there's something off about this guy and the way he grows his beard. Like, you can tell just from looking from one man to another, trying to be a somewhat of a judge of what this guy is like. There's something off about this guy. And I've actually downloaded his 1,000-page systematic theology onto my iPad, and he outright said that penal substitutionary atonement is, I'm paraphrasing this, is one of the trashiest theological things that has ever come about in Christianity. Even though it has been there from the very beginning, even though it has been shadowed from the time when the temple came about to when it was finally the arrival of Christ.
I don't understand how somebody can have such a disdain for that theology. I just can't wrap my head around that.
I think it's pride.
Yeah, I mean, seems like almost everything else comes down to pride.
Yeah. Like, people can't accept the fact that someone else is willing to show love to them through sacrifice. They're always thinking in terms of the universe has equivalent exchange, and so I'm only going to get back as much as I put into it. But you gave and contributed nothing to your very birth. You gave and contributed nothing to getting your Halloween candy. Like, let's be honest. Why do you have your costume? Because you asked your parents for it. Not because you were entitled to a Halloween costume or entitled to candy, but you had to ask because you had no ability to put that costumes together. You had no ability to be driven blocks away to the most bougie neighborhoods to get the biggest of candy bars. No, your parents slaved away, sacrificed for you. Like, that little example alone. I think that's why I'm kind of glad we have Halloween. It's a teaching moment for kids.
How cool Halloween. Yeah.
All the parents in our podcast listeners are like, yes, that's right. Because I know Micah said he's gone out trick-or-treating for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of like Halloween because it gives me the opportunity to like, I don't know. I'm just going to say outright wear my Mandalorian helmet.
I need a
people like look at it and think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's so awesome. That was just so awesome behind the Mandalorian lore and all that. Like, they wear their helmets because it's a part of their creed. And that's something interesting. Even the Mandalorians are more creedal and confessional than most Christians out there in America.
All right, man. Let's see. Before we're done, what are 3 books or 3 podcasts that you're actively listening to or reading?
So, one podcast I listen to every week for sure would be the Hardman podcast. I know you have feelings about that one too. I'm trying to slowly make my way through the Haunted Cosmos again because I hate scary movies, scary stories, and all that. But I'm fascinated by the lore behind it all. Like, and one more book or podcast. I do have a few books on my Audible account that I need to go through. Fault Lines is one of them that I went through months ago. Good to Be a Man is another one, but one I'm currently going through.
Didn't you finish that thing?
Yeah, I kind of cheated and read the rest of it before we were done with it.
Yeah.
But,
I read the whole thing.
Dang it. I need to read more.
Oh, dude, you only have so much time in there.
I know a third one now.
Yeah.
The Sean Ryan Show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He recently became saved a few months ago, and he announced it on Twitter on how he basically came to know Christ. And that's freaking awesome. So I started listening to his podcast. And one of the greatest ones I've heard from him is his interview with Don Graves.
Yeah.
Flamethrower in World War II on the Pacific Front, and eventually became a pastor for about 40 years. Don't quote me on that number. And then finally retired and is, just a legend who still lives. Think about that.
Can you be a legend and lose?
Yes. That's called a living legend.
No matter what YouTube does in the algorithm, that stuff always helps. And if you have any last minute comments or anything you would like to leave, don't hesitate to drop those below. But until then, just may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Amen.